Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how are you doing today?
I am all good, Joe. It is a Tuesday morning, and every morning I get up about 5:30, me and Buddy, and we go out and get our coffee. That's always been something I look forward to. I look forward to getting up in the morning early, hanging out with Buddy for a bit, and then going to my favorite local non-corporate coffee stand drive-through. But in the last year on Tuesdays, I have even something else to look forward to. Aside from this podcast that we record every Tuesday, we have our weekly mastermind and coaching session down in Burien every Tuesday. And while I do love all of you guys, I also love the beef cannelloni that I get to look forward to every Tuesday. For some reason, I order the same thing every time. I don't know why, but if you guys haven't come and joined us down at Angelo's yet, put it on your calendar for 2020 to join us on Tuesdays. So today is one of those days. So if I get distracted, it's because I'm looking forward to, for some reason, these podcasts makes me hungry. Let's put it that way. And, hungry for knowledge as well as hungry for, apparently Italian food. So sometimes Caribbean food, but what are you up to?
Well, I'm on day 4 of something called the fasting mimicking diet, which is a 5-day kind of like it's a small amount of food fasting. So if you hear a thud during the podcast, that's because I fell over because I haven't really eaten in 4 days.
So you're saying we're living on opposite ends of the planet.
Yeah, but the beef cannelloni sounds really good right now.
Ooh, so if I would have known that you were going to say that, I wouldn't have dangled the yummy, cheesy, beefy beef cannelloni in front of you, Joe.
I feel like every commercial and ad I see right now is for food.
So awesome. So you guys are in town for the Christmas holiday. And then where are you going next on your adventures? If you guys have been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that Joe and his girlfriend Emily have been traveling both the United States and apparently, getting a little bit globetrotters in pursuit of hitting all the national parks, among other awesome adventures they've had. So what's next after the holidays here with a little break with the fam?
Yeah, the goal is to head towards Colorado and see where the snow is at. And if there's snow, we'll go there on the way. We did book KOA reservations in Steamboat Springs for, I think it's the second week of January. And hopefully they'll have snow and we'll go and get some powder days there.
So it's no issue to be staying in the van in a big snowy cold area.
We're going to go try that out. I mean, we've been there in the teens, in the van in the teens, and we got an extra heater. So whenever we can plug in, we'll just keep that heater on no freeze mode. And we should be good to go. I've done some research and talked to other people that have the same setup as we do, and they have no problem with it.
Good stuff. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Well, maybe we'll get to see each other on the road with one of our snowboarding adventures this summer. I'd love to hang out. And that gives me a good transition right here, because today on the podcast, we have one of my personal buddies and Joe's buddies, somebody that we love to hang out with, Mr. Justin Stiles of Seattle Homebuyers and House of Stiles. What's up, Justin?
Hey, guys. That's probably one of the most creative and clever transitions I've ever heard on TV, radio, and history.
You like that? How's that? Yeah, they just come straight at me, right? It's always a challenge for me. I have no clue how I'm ever going to do it. Yeah. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But you know what? We're just having fun over here. We're not trying to be too serious. So when I say that Joe and I love Justin, by the end of this podcast, I think you guys are all going to love it too. Like I said, Justin Stiles, Seattle Homebuyers and House of Stiles, is absolutely a guy that you guys are all going to want to know. And why is that, you might ask? Why, Julie? Well, first of all, he is funnier than heck, which we all love. He is a dog lover, and he is a loving dad and husband, and has 2 young boys. And that alone, for me, is enough to want to hang out with him. But in addition to that, he is also a super duper talented long-term real estate investor, general contractor, broker. And if that's not enough, to top it off, along with his wife, Ashley, they are a very sought-after husband and wife design build team with their company, House of Stiles. There's my phone. Sorry, guys. Real estate flows. It doesn't ever stop. Justin is an awesome dude. He is also one of the lead coaches in my VIP education community. That's free to brokers who want to add additional skill sets beyond traditional buy-sell real estate into their toolbox to survive our disrupting and changing real estate industry. We love this guy. And like I said, by the end of this podcast, I think you guys are all going to love Justin too. So I have a secret question that nobody probably knows about you, Justin, that I'm going to save until the very end. So I can't wait. There's your dangling reason to stay on the podcast today, other than the great info Justin's about to share with us. So today, guys, we're going to get to know Justin's story, some of the ups and downs like we all have in our real estate businesses, and how he's honed his skills and his message to stand out from the competition that we all face today in today's real estate market. We're also going to do a bit of a deep dive on rehab construction costs so we can all hone in and have good numbers when we're analyzing our deals, whether we're wholesalers or rehabbers or buy holders. I'm kind of getting tired of saying burr, so I like to say buy holder. Or, a broker. If you're working with investor clients, you need to know these numbers. You need to know construction costs in order to analyze good deals for your clients. So let's do it. Joseph is going to kick us off with our numero uno question that we ask everybody.
Yeah, Justin, let's dig deep into your background and hear about where you grew up, how you grew up, and how that led you into real estate.
I grew up just south of Seattle in a little city called Federal Way. It's a city name that they've been trying to change forever because it just doesn't make sense to have that as the name of the city. But nonetheless, it's called Federal Way. And I grew up there, went to high school, and I got an older brother and family. And parents were married for close to 50 years now. And we grew up. My dad coached us in sports, and my dad's an old Marine, so there's a lot of strict policies in the house, and at the same time they're willing to allow us, kind of have some longer hair at times and be rebellious and whatnot. It's great. I'm truly fortunate to have the family and upbringing that I did have, and learned a lot of lessons from my older brother, and still to this day he's one of my best friends, and it's just great. It's just super lucky in that regard. So a lot of family friends as well that were a part of that.
How'd you so you went to college somewhere, and then didn't you move to LA for a while? How'd you end up moving? What'd you do before you got started in real estate, and how did you end up in real estate?
Yeah, I played football at Western Washington for a little bit. And, after my second year, I decided that I was not going to go pro, and wasn't probably going to see the field much in college. And so I graduated on time, but early for a football player. And then decided I was going to go down to LA and take a shot in the film industry. So I was down there for about 9 years. Did a little bit of everything from acting to directing to writing and waiting tables, bartending, you name it. So I did get my SAG card, so that was exciting. Eventually it just kind of got to that point where, LA is a funny place. You start to you talk about my upgrading and how you guys know me today is a pretty positive and fun-loving guy. And when I, towards the last few years of my time in LA, I just got to be super cynical and very judgmental. I remember it hit me one time. I saw someone walking across the street, and I was just sitting there like judging them, going, "Oh my God, why are they wearing that?" And I was like, "Holy cow! Why am I saying that? Like that's just that's not who I am." And I just realized it's such a sharp environment down there, and cutthroat, and it just it wasn't for me. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to come home. And my brother just had a daughter, and I didn't want to be that uncle that lived far away. And so I decided to move back home, and try and get some film stuff working here. And at the time, my parents had bought a house on Vashon Island, a little old cabin. And so I was just living there by myself, and I started remodeling the cabin, and just didn't have any bills or worries at the time. So then, of course, I, through friends, met my wife Ashley, and moved back to LA because that's where she was. And eventually, her job, because of the economy, in 2008 or so, ended, and so we decided, hey, let's move up to Seattle. I know enough people. We can get a job, no problem. And so we moved up to Seattle, and we were living with my parents at the time. We weren't married yet; we were engaged, and found out quickly that the film industry does not translate to normal jobs, as my dad would call. He'd always tell me it's time to get a normal job when I was out of work in LA. But no one would hire because we didn't have any really experience. And my wife's got her master's degree from Harvard, and I'm college educated, and a lot of the work we did in LA was really good, but it just wouldn't translate out here. So we got married. The first 2 years of our marriage, between the two of us, we lost 6 jobs.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the fortunate with that is we didn't have debt. We didn't have a house. We didn't, nothing like that, but just kind of, here we are trying to start our future and all these things. And
why was that? What was it? Why was that?
Because it was just the economy. Like people, the industries, Ashley was working for like an entertainment type company that was doing, they'd get a contract and need her, and then all of a sudden the contract ended and they couldn't afford her. And then, with me, my experience in film industry, Ashley did some producing, worked in an office and things that were a little more translatable. Plus she's got her master's degree. So my experience was, I'm just getting essentially a sales job, but my first job moving home was I was selling mechanical insulation, which is exciting as it sounds. And it, we're talking about an economy where cranes are being taken down in downtown Seattle and nobody's building anymore. So that means nobody's buying building materials. So that lasted for about 4 or 5 months. And then I was looking for work, and I started selling door-to-door supplemental cancer insurance.
Oh my God.
So that lasted about 2 days. And then, but then I was a licensed insurance broker. So I started working for American Family Insurance. I was a regional marketing consultant. I forget what it was, but wasn't a director. I would go from different offices and help them with their marketing and things like that. And, eventually I had a buddy of mine who was buying foreclosures, and he kept kind of, sending me stuff. And so I, my wife and I went to one of the meetings that, to get you access and all that stuff and learn a little bit how foreclosures work. And I kept watching, and I kept telling my dad, I'm like, hey, Dad, let's do this. This will be fun, right? Why not? My she had sold real estate for 20 plus years. They've got, handful of rental properties themselves. And, and my dad had just coincidentally sold a random small business that he had with a few partners. And had, a couple $100,000 in capital that he could use, or that he, could invest. And so, I ended up losing my job at American Family Insurance, which was, great. And finally said, hey, Dad, guess what? I've got time on my hands. You've got money in your pocket, and I've got no job. So now's the time to go to these auctions and buy a house. So,
and what year was that, you think?
2009, probably 2009, 2010. And so we started going, and I would, Vestas, which is the company we used, we did that. I would go to all the Thursday meetings, and then I would, still live with my parents at the time. So I'd come home, and my dad and I'd stay up late, and I'd tell them all the ones, we thought, and we'd kind of analyze, and then we would, I would wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I would go drive the houses we were interested in, and I'd call my dad and say, hey, here's the one. And, that worked well for a little bit, but it took us almost 3 months before we bought our first house. And my dad never, because he had his full-time job, he never ever actually attended the auctions. But the one time we bought a house, he actually attended. And then back then, there were so many foreclosures going on. They had the Northwest trustees had their own little place in Bellevue, and then you had all the other ones down in downtown Seattle. So downtown Seattle is just a wreck. They got pressure washers and buses and people yelling and all this kind of, you're just outside on in the front of a building, and there's, you're just kind of figuring it out. And the one in the Bellevue one, it's in the parking garage of Group Health, and they've got coffee out, tables with brochures, and it's it's total like country club type atmosphere in comparison. And so when our first house we bought, they had Occupy Seattle going on. And so they told us at Thursday meeting, like, don't even attempt to go down to Seattle. Just let us know what you want. And because it's going to be too chaotic. And so we're like, okay. So my dad goes, hey, I want to go to the auction. And I was like, all right, great. So we went to the Bellevue one, and the house we were looking at, either got postponed or someone else bought it or something. But then I got a notification on my phone that there was an opening bid for this other house that was in a nicer neighborhood of Renton. And so so I said, hey, Dad, the opening bid is at the minimum bid. Like, this is great. Do you want to jump on it? He goes, yeah, sure. So I text the guy, I said, hey, we want this house. And he's like, okay, great. And he said, okay, you're on it. And so my dad and I got in the car, and we went to go drive to this house, to see it, trying to get there before the auction happened. Anyways, while we're in the car, the guy calls us, and he's like, hey, how do you want to buy the house? And he's louder than all heck because, there's protesters and Occupy Seattle saying, whatever they say. And we're like, we're going to use the hard money. Like, what are you talking about? He goes, no, how do you want to buy it? Like, what do you want to buy it with? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you just bought the house. I need to know whose name to put it under. Like, oh shit. So we're like, I got a speakerphone. My dad and I look at each other like, holy shit. Like, I guess put it under my dad's name for right now. Like, so we put it under my dad's name, and, cause we didn't have our LLC set up yet, but, we drove to this house and never, hadn't seen it, didn't do the drive-by earlier because didn't have an opening bid. So we get there, we drive up to it, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, this house was, it needed a little yard work, but it was, for those locals, it was like a Snoqualmie Ridge, Issaquah Highlands type of neighborhood. House was built in the, like 97 or something like that with, hardy siding and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, this is great, and so the previous owners were living there, and we knocked the door, and they're like, hey, come on in. Do you want to see the place? And totally walked us around. It's like, I'm going to leave the washer and dryer and the, all the appliances for you guys. And, they just wanted 2 extra days the weekend to move out. So we said, yeah, sure, absolutely. So we ended up, so our rehab budget totaled on that. There was a little hardwood floor damage from a leak in the dishwasher. So we repaired that. They had the book that had like all the building materials in it. So I was able to find exactly what the flooring was and patch the hole real quick. Cost about $500. And then we did about $1,000 in landscaping and a little bit of touch up paint. So our sight unseen auction home during Occupy Seattle, we bought at minimum bid price, and our total rehab budget was $1,500. And we made about $55,000 on it.
Wow.
And we were hooked.
Oh, yeah.
This is the easiest money we've ever had in our life. So, and it was fun too, because there's the excitement part of it. My dad being a Marine.
Did your mom sell it?
No. So my mom had retired at the time. She had retired earlier. And she's attempted to re-get her license about 3 or 4 times, but it's when she was doing real estate, it was back in the day when they'd have that big, huge book that would come out every week, and you'd have to, thumb through. It was like a phone book instead of having internet access. So,
yeah,
it's just, there's no internet marketing and stuff like that back in the day. So she it would take a lot for her.
It would sure be fun to have your mom on the podcast and tell us what it was like doing real estate back then as compared to now. That would be a blast. We should talk about that if she'd be up for it. That would be totally awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. She's full-time grandma now. So,
that is awesome. So that was your first deal. Then what happened? What did you guys do after that?
So then we bought another one.
Through auction?
Yep, through auction. And then I think that was like $15,000. We only made about $7,000 on that house. It was one of those. Got a little too excited, wanted the house too bad. And, it was, hindsight, I should have, one of those, if you knew now or if you knew then what you do now type of thing. So it would have been a great rental property.
Tell us what went wrong. Why did you only make $7,000 on that house? What did you just pay too much for it, or did you not budget correctly or something?
Yeah. I overshot the valuation. The rehab, it was minimal, I think we ended up selling it for like $285 and we bought it for $215, something like that.
So you had the wrong ARV. You were overly.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that we did that we didn't need to do. Like it was, I had to break into the house, because there's no keys, and I got in there and it just was, it was like 3 or 4 minutes and I was outside puking just because of the smell inside. And so we went in there, we had to pull up all the carpet, and it smelled a lot better after that. And then we painted the walls, it smelled a lot better.
Now, is your dad doing this with you?
Nope. So at the time I was doing everything, right? He was just kind of the bank, if you will. Just putting the down payment on the house and doing the monthly payments for the, for the hard money and whatnot.
And you were using the east side then, because you were going through Vestas?
Yep.
And what was the deal terms with Vestas back in that? Was it 12 and 2 or 12 and 3 or?
I believe it was 12 and 3, if I'm not mistaken. Now,
are you still borrowing from Vestas or from East Side today?
No,
Okay.
we haven't borrowed from them since we stopped doing auction. Yeah, and it was a convenience thing. They're right there, and it was kind of a one-stop shop, all that stuff. So,
Right.
but yeah, so I would at the time because I needed work, so I was, the company was paying me to be the general contractor as well as, partners. So,
so you went and got your general contracting license right away?
Yeah, because at the time the state required it.
Right.
Which is funny. I mean, if you know me, I love government. So, the rule was to try and help people, who were flipping houses, to make sure that it was done by a licensed contractor. But to become a licensed contractor is, it costs $2,000, and you don't even need to know what a hammer is, and you could become a general contractor. Right. So
is it still that way today to become a general contractor? Is it just pay to play?
So, oh yeah. Yeah. There's no test. You got to have your insurance bond and all that kind of stuff. But there's no test. There's no, it's more difficult to become a hairdresser than it is to become a general contractor. Not that that's unnecessary, but,
we get your flow.
Yeah. So, real estate brokers, and my dog's going to bark here in a sec. All that you got, you have so much more at stake as a general contractor than you would as a hairdresser, because your hair is going to grow back. But I understand you're using chemicals around people's heads, and
you're trying to talk your way out of not. You're being politically correct right now, which is hilarious to watch yourself try and explain your way. Right on. Okay, so deal number 2 was deal number 2. You got a little excited. You learned a lesson how to.
Got excited, yeah. Well, we put in grounder countertops, things like that. But the countertops needs to be replaced with your normal, rental material type stuff that you get at Home Depot, the over the counter. I easily could have done that rehab for $10,000 instead of $5,000. Not that it would have made us much more money. But it's just one of those, the time I spent trying to do it myself as well, it was probably the extra 3 or 4 weeks of another hard money payment and things like that.
I find a big mistake that I see investors making is 2 things. One, they want to get a deal so bad, even if they're experienced. They think they're super experienced, so they got it covered. They know what they're doing. So they buy a house with no comps. There's no comps, and, they think, well, I know how to fix stuff, and I know how to have cost effectiveness, and, but they really don't have any control. Then all of a sudden, if some property comes on the market because there was no comps before, and, takes down your ARV that you were hoping to get, that you had to make up out of thin air because you didn't have any comps. I see that being a mistake. Mm-hmm. So in this market, guys, especially if you're new and you're like, oh man, I'm getting this deal from this service that is helping people get deals. And, think about it for a second. Why are you getting that deal?
Right.
Is there no comps? Then, that could be one of the reasons that they're not just cherry picking that for themselves, right? So just be careful with that. And the other thing I see that investors do at all experience level, especially the experienced general contractor types, is they over improve because they can't stop themselves. So they don't base the remodel upon the comps, right? That tie to the ARV they're going for. They over improve it and then think that guarantees that it's nicer because they do better work, and then they're going to get this high price, where I don't think the two things translate necessarily. That's not a guarantee. And so I think there's some spankings that can happen here and there in regards to, you guys do the most beautiful work of probably anybody we know, right? I don't know if you've had any experiences with that kind of stuff, but I'm just speaking in general, not about you guys, but
right. Well, Julie, it's interesting because, I have, as a broker, I had a listing in Seattle that we couldn't sell it, and they could not figure out why. And people were, we came in there going, okay, here's an option. We can put in $20,000, redo the kitchen, update this, that, but I was like, but I don't really think that's necessary because, you look at some of these other houses, and my perception and my seller's perception of needing work was a lot different than what the buyer's perception was. So, we did some paints, we updated some electrical, we did a few things to the house to make it nice, but a lot of the feedback was like, they don't want a project. I'm like, the project, this is a beautiful little first time home buyer bungalow that, it's not a fixer. Right. And so sometimes you go in there thinking, yeah, this is fine, but then the buyers are going to tell you something completely different, right?
You are 100% right. That is a good comment, because it's actually just depends on the market that we're in, right? So, 2 years ago, you could have just walked in there, didn't even clean the place, throw a sign up, and it was going to sell, But
right.
These days, that is the conversation, that is the discussion currently, as of today, December, 17th. That buyers are super picky. Buyers do not want projects right now. They want stuff done, right? I guess my differentiation is, what is the definition of done, right?
Right. Well, we did a project this last year in North Seattle. It was gorgeous. I mean, it was the broker that I had listing it for me. Literally the first weekend, she told me, she says, I'm sorry that I can't get you feedback from all of the people that went in there because I literally have lost count.
Yeah.
There were so many people that went through this house, and everyone said, this is going to go right away. God, you guys are going to get more than asking. And we didn't sell it.
And
we were
part
shocked.
of that is, I think, is because buyers don't want to compete. They're tired of competing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, but the funny thing is, a lot of the people had the comments that they had, like the feedback were, well, why didn't they replace the furnace? We're like, well, do you feel it warm right now? It works, right? Like it's not. Why would I replace? Why would I take a whole bunch of hunk of metal and put it in the landfill when it's got another 5-10 years into it, right? And if that's your issue, that broker is doing a disservice, because obviously, absolutely, if that's going to be a deal breaker, because that furnace is going to cost the homeowner twice as much as it's going to cost me, right?
Right.
But we had the gas piped into it for new, we had it ready to go for anyone to make it less expensive for whoever did it. But for us, it's a $4,500 furnace. For the next guy, it's going to be $10,000, right? Because they're they're calling whoever that's not not a general contractor or flipper or whatever. So, but that was just one of those. It was frustrating. We ended up making good money on it, but it was about $100,000 less than what we had originally thought on our list price. And then there was a comp like 3 blocks away that didn't have a garage, had a single car detached garage. It was it was not updated. It was livable, but it wasn't updated at all. And they listed it at same price. We had ours at 1.1. They had theirs at 1.1, and it sold for 1.375. It went $275,000 above, and we couldn't sell ours, which was 100% remodeled, gorgeous, beautiful, new roof, everything. And
you
we sold those for
figure out why that happened.
Couldn't do it. No, just these random little. To your point,
it's funny.
a lot of
I've been hearing
people
talk about the fact that flipped homes are getting more scrutinized than homeowner remodeled homes, or something, that flipped homes are getting scrutinized harder.
Well, and so it's funny because we had one of the things that we love doing is making our flips unique, in that, and it's something that buyers and real estate brokers have told us that we've loved hearing, and it's something we've kind of held on to, was that, when you walk in this house, it doesn't feel like a flipped home. It feels like a remodeled home. Right. So we understand. We walk in there, and Ashley, my amazing designer wife, there's a comma in there. She's not a designer wife. She's a wife who happens to be a designer. But she has this really great way of understanding just these little details and aspects that will make certain things just kind of shine and be great and unique, right? This is the kind of those, I guess, showpieces, if you will. But we had some comments like, "Oh yeah, it's too bad one of the broker that ended up buying the house had some comments like, you didn't use something that you would be something that the masses would like, very like neutral type of." It's like, well, what are you talking about? Like, every single person except for you has loved this house, right?
Right.
Like, what, these aspects that are really unique are new, but they're extremely, trendy, as well as, timeless as well. It's not something that, we're, kind of like the hardwood floor tile that used to be popular for like 5 years,
Yeah.
It's like, those are, people are going to want to replace that soon, because it's not, so, making sure
I think the moral of the story here at this point, December 17th, 2019 here, that we have lost the stability and predictability of our market at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, everybody just needs to be cautious and, really buy right and, get the right improvements. I mean, people need to be, networking with each other, sharing stories of,
yep.
Why their stuff sold, or, how well it went or why it didn't. We all need to be talking to each other with our real estate investor community, not only about all these things about how to learn this and that, but what's been our experiences on the listings that we've had. Maybe we'll start doing that, Justin, because Justin hosts, actually Justin is the host, along with Melanie Mengi over in Redmond, of our Seattle Investors Club weekly mastermind on the East Side. So if you guys, after this podcast, want to come meet Justin in person, you can do that every week on Thursdays from 10 to 12. We'll tell you how to do that. But yeah, we've lost the predictability, and we should start having that conversation every week. We ask everybody if they need help with something, and then we ask everybody like who has a deal on the market and what's going on, and share that. That's a good one. We're gonna do that. Note to self there. So okay, well, let's move on here. So I could talk to you forever, but so you're a rehabber, you're a general contractor for both yourself and for retail clients. You're a broker. What is your favorite part of what you do and why?
I guess I don't know if that's sort of a different way of asking what my why is, but my favorite part is I feel like every time I've had a job in the past, I was always smarter than my boss. And with this job, I am the boss. And so any decisions I make are either, they're wrong and it's my accountability, or I'm right. And, and I deserve, everything I get from that. So, but the biggest thing about it is it's my schedule, because I have two sons and as I mentioned earlier, that my dad coached me growing up, in, baseball and basketball, and football was his sport, but it was his busy season. So he didn't coach me in football, but it's like my pastime. Some people golf, some people, Joe and Emily travel the world in a bus. I like to coach, and that's one of my favorite things to do. And it allows me that flexibility. And, I serve on the board of directors for the local Little League, and, just making sure that these kids are have good influences and stuff. And not that there's a lot in my area, but, at the same time, there's definitely some coaches that take a little too far, and, or that may not be given the right instruction, things like that. So, that's why I do it. But, I love the chase of it. I love the beginning and after, the before and afters, and showing it off and all that fun stuff that, that gets people into the business to begin with, all the sort of the HGTV sexiness and all that, that's all
and
fun.
You guys, all you guys should jump on and follow Justin and Ashley Stiles on House of Stiles. And Stiles is a play, I don't know how they say that, off Justin's last name, which is Stiles, House of Stiles. How cool is that? You were blessed with a good name for this business.
So cool.
You
Yeah.
You left out there, brother.
I did.
So how do you get your deals these days? What's your method of deal flow?
The majority of our deals comes from referrals these days, or bird dogs. I've got a lot of people out there that know that this is what we're doing, what we're looking for in particular. And so, I have those relationships that, it's hard to find really good, they're called bird dogs. That's that's how I learned what they are. But we don't do any auctions anymore. And, finding, a lot of times you tell people, hey, here's what I'm looking for. And then they'll start emailing you like a listing, or, hey, look at this address. I'm like, well, look at what? Like, how much is it? What does it need? Like, I don't have time to go and do all that person's work for them to, like if I'm your client, give me a reason to want to go and look at this house and buy it and stuff.
Right.
So finding the right clients or the right bird dogs that don't require you to do all that work, and actually, have an appointment and have a motivated seller that, hey, this is my price, and it's, and here's why. And they're good at that with the relationship. Those are the ones that are bringing me the deals, because they're good, and they know that I can buy them. I'm not going to back out. Here's my number, and and all that. So it's and it's fun too. I mean, it's you have those relationships, and when they call you, it's something good.
And what does a bird dog get in that situation if they're not a broker?
They're all brokers.
Okay.
Yeah. So they'll
don't get me on my soapbox about why everybody should be a broker. I'm not even going to go there today. I'm holding myself back right now.
There's a couple wholesalers that I know have potential, and that I they have some deals, and I'll go on and I'll it's that relationship, the networking and making sure that I want them to know what my process is and what I'm looking for, and why this and why that. This is something. So they'll in turn, they're learning a little bit from me, and being a general contractor and understanding, what
you're helping them understand the numbers on how they should, how they should analyze these deals, right?
Yeah. And in turn, they will send me the deal first, and
there you go.
Then I can get it. So.
Hey guys, it's Julie here with a quick break from the show to discuss an opportunity some of you may have interest in, which is to work more closely with me. On almost a daily basis, I get calls from investors and brokers, both new and experienced, asking me for guidance or advice. I love helping you guys out, and it keeps me on my toes too. So with that said, I wanted to let you know that I have a private broker coaching community called the VIP Education Community. And the best part is that it's 100% free. That's right, it's free to join. So whether you're a traditional broker or a broker investor, my VIP education community offers personalized one-on-one coaching from not just me, but also from my experienced broker friends with expertise in all disciplines of real estate and real estate investing. We'll teach and share our modern marketing strategies, our tech and lead generation resources, plus teach you how to identify or offer up opportunities for yourself or for your clients using techniques such as seller financing, lease options, land entitlement deals, BRRRR investing, flipping, multifamily or commercial coaching, whatever you like. We've got it all covered for you. The future of real estate is changing fast, and to stay in the game, it's time to learn about all the options you can offer your buyer and seller clients, as well as, if you want, learn how to use those skills to grow your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like more details about joining my VIP education community, reach out to me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com or text me at 206-910-2985, or just send me a Facebook message. My new favorite phrase is community equals confidence. So let's navigate the future of real estate together. Now, back to the show.
So what's the unique message? I think you have a unique message that you're able to offer sellers, whether that be a JV situation or, how do you approach a situation with a seller when you're deciding what type of options, right? Julie Clark, my favorite thing is I specialize in providing options. I think it's the way of the future. And any of you who are out there, especially you brokers, and wholesalers who I think will not survive as just a one-trick pony offering a cash offer.
Right.
Options, I think, are the way of the future in real estate. Learning how to provide different options for people. And so, what are the options that you provide?
Yeah, well, in this day and age with all the seminars and radio ads, I mean, there's so, especially in this market, and we get emails and people introducing themselves every week that, hey, I'm new and I'm going to be a flipper. It's like, well, now there's hundreds of thousands, it feels like, just in this area. I feel like there's more flippers than real estate brokers. And it's being it's super saturated, they're all learning the kind of the same things, and every absentee owner gets the same letters from the same people, and it's just like, okay, great. Oh, this is from this organization. This is from this organization. Like, you get it, but it's not, it doesn't work, right? I mean, you're selling.
Yes, you have to have a unique message.
If you were the only person,
you're in a line. You're in line. Either you're like Justin and you've worked very well with your relationships that you're getting referrals, so there's not necessarily as much competition, which is the way to go. That's called free leads and free lead generation. Or you're competing, which we all have to do at some point, and you have to have a unique message. So you gotta get the skill sets, or you gotta learn the language and how to talk with unique messages, which is what I personally specialize in, coaching other people, and Justin does as well, and that's why we hang out. So tell us what it is.
So my marketing now, being I'm a licensed real estate broker with EXP, I'm a licensed general contractor with my company House of Stiles, and I'm a real estate investor with my company, Seattle Home Buyers, SeattleHomeBuyers.com plug, and I. So in doing that, so now my marketing says, hey, listen, Julie, as you mentioned, you're providing options. I just come out and flat say, look, hey, I'll give you a cash price offer for your house where you can leave it as it is, walk away whenever you want. And here's your price. I will provide you an estimate for some of the damages or repairs that need to be done in order to get this to that place. And not only that, I'm going to cover those costs for you. So that you don't have to worry about it. And if we did that, and there's of course, some fees involved with me providing that, and then of course the listing. But a lot of people, a lot of people don't realize that when you're going to list a house, how much money it takes to actually put your house on the market. And that's all. It's not something you can necessarily defer at closing unless you work with me. But it's it can be $20,000 if you have a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot house.
Exact situation myself going right now. I've got hey, here's a cash offer. Here's a traditional listing. I call it a boost, right? Mm-hmm. I can give you a boost, and the boost number is $20,000, and I can cover that for you until closing, right? That's what you're doing.
Yeah,
that's the way of the future, right?
Right. Yeah, and being a general contractor too is I can, I've got my entire team of guys, right? And I can say, hey guys, I need you over here at Pumpkin, bam, bam, bam. We can just schedule it in with other stuff, and it's not me calling a handyman or whatever. We just get it done, and I know the quality. They understand what's expected out of it. And also, my wife is a designer. If there's something that it's like a paint color or something that's going to go or a certain thing that she can, if it's a backsplash repair or something like that, like she'll be able to pick out those materials and we get them at our cost, and makes that valuable. So. But then, of course, the other option is, hey, I can give you an idea of what you would need to spend and help you provide and manage that. If you wanted to do that and list it the, traditional way, and then there's other creative stuff too, that I can get into if with the seller, if it would fit them, like a lease option or like a subject to contract, which I love.
What about partnering with them?
Yeah, I haven't done that. I haven't found a situation yet where that would be a feasible solution. I've brought it up, to people, say, hey, look, we'll, and there's, I guess your JV and partners, there's two ways to do that. But yes, I've come in and said, hey, listen, I'll buy the house, you hold the papers, and I'll pay you this much money after I fix it up and flip it. But that's not, to me, that's not really a joint venture.
That's
because
like seller financing, right?
Right. And so, but yeah, and I've presented that before, but again, you got to get the right person, situation. Right? In the right situation for that to make sense. And I'll present and say, hey, we can do that if something you're interested in. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, what does that look like? And I'll say, okay, well, essentially it just says, I'll pay you, $10,000 more than I am now, but it's going to be deferred to when after I fix this up and sell it. Right.
Right. And a super advantage that you have, like you said, is because you already have a construction company and all the subs. It is basically commonplace these days. There is brokerage firms and there is outside, companies such as Zing Fix or Curbio that are offering to basically pay for the rehab out of pocket prior to sale and get paid back later. That's like commonplace. That's not new news. If you think that's new news, people who are listening, then, I'm not sure where you're located, but that is sort of becoming, old news at this point. And I have some theories myself of what the next disruptive thing that's going to happen to real estate. If you want to come hang out on a Tuesday or a Thursday, I'll tell you what that is, because we're not talking about that today. But
and Julia, to a lot of those apps or companies that are web-based and stuff, like, I'm always skeptical of them. There's so many startups and things out there, but
that's what I was about to say, is that you can beat, why I love hanging out with you is because you're going to beat me even. That's my point. Well, you are going to offer something better than any of these companies or any of these brokers associated with companies that can offer these things because of your costs. Because you can probably do it for half the price that a broker would then go hire, some contractors or vendors to work with or call their favorite buddies, right? So that's an advantage of working with you there.
And anybody who right now is trying to find a plumber or electrician or drywall guy, good luck if you want them done in the next month, right? And not just
let's switch gears, because we're going to go too long here today, and let's jump into that type of talk let's go a little deep dive on the construction costs, contractor do's or don'ts. So as an experienced general contractor, you've been in the game for almost a decade now. What is the hardest challenge that you have today working with subs, like even for you?
Is getting managing it with anything, because everyone blames the other sub, and the other subs say, make sure this guy does this. So, we spend over $2,000 a year on Starbucks gift cards just to make some of our guys happy, because they walk in, they're upset. It's like, okay, we'll get you a coffee and you guys can just do your job. But it's all subs kind of do what they do, and then they leave, and whatever problem there is, they'll leave it for the next guy, right? So we're fortunate that the team that we have are they're like family to us, and then and they they joke
still,
and
it's
laugh,
managing personalities and workflow together.
Yeah, because not like everybody that when you're learning about flipping and stuff like that, they're like, hey, find a contractor, and he's good, and essentially they should, when they hire a contractor, is expecting him to manage all the subs, and that's kind of what the general contractor does, right? So and that we've fired 3 electricians this year, finally found our replacement for the guy that just disappeared, right? Same with our plumber, you're all, and you got to make sure that those guys mesh with everybody. But if you're if you don't have that, and you're just like a homeowner, you're expecting the job to get done, and like, oh, I can't get my guy out till this time. With us, it's like I have control over that, because I could say, hey, get out of Jimmy and Linda's house for a week, because I need you here, because this this job needs you this, and send your guys and your team over here to do that, and that'll just be a little bit delayed a little bit for this, because we need to have this done now, and Jim and Linda will understand. They have they understand that we have, right now we have 6 remodels going on for clients, and then we have 2 flips, right? So we have guys to do everything, but sometimes
it feels like a game of chess.
It is,
little bit,
for sure.
Right. What are the hardest subs to find these days in regards to availability as of middle of December 2019?
Plumbers and electricians.
And is that because they're working on all the new construction projects? And
no, they're just busy. We're talking, soapbox. We're talking about giving free college to people. It's like, well, let's give free trade schools to people, because that's where the jobs are right now. There's more jobs for plumbers and HVAC and electricians, they're getting, $80,000 jobs right out of trade school before even graduating. They have offers on the table. As soon as you graduate, we're putting you on a truck and you're going,
good skill set to have too, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, yeah, in some circles it might look down upon, but God, these guys are, I've got my tile guy's truck is cooler than my truck, and he deserves, he's got 6 or 7 employees, and they're, and,
he might,
and they're,
yeah, exactly.
He's doing a great job. But at the same time, like I've literally, it's one of those things you appreciate craftspeople, and you're willing to sometimes pay a little bit more to make sure that you're getting the job done. But I've literally seen the head of the guy at the tile company, Jose, come in and see the line. We did a client shower, and if you're looking at the shower, you have the back wall, you have the 2 side walls, right? The lines on the side wall on the left weren't exact as the lines on the side wall on the right. He made him tear out the entire shower and do it again.
Nice.
And just to make sure it was perfect, and no charge. Like you got this way. That's his expectations for his guys.
Well, we won't make you share his contact information today, right? So what's the most? What trade is the most expensive to deal with these days? Is that drywallers, electricians? I mean, I know time availability. We said plumbers and electricians, but what's the most expensive? Last year, I heard people talking about how drywall was insanely expensive.
Yeah, drywall. It fluctuates. So, my general contractors came from drywall. So, they're in the house for, from drywall to they do the finish work, and they have painters on their crew now too. So all of those costs for me are a little less than if I was, just to try and find a drywall guy, that strictly does that. So,
but I mean, for the average person looking who isn't Justin, where do you think they're going to have the biggest challenges? Where's the lead time if they're listening to this and they are looking to somehow, a law of attraction, put the world on notice that they need, some subs because they know they're going to get a deal soon or whatever. They're getting ready to close one in 3 weeks and they need some subs. Which is the subs, that are most expensive with the biggest lead time that they should first try and locate because they're going to have trouble getting them?
I would say electricians and plumbers. Just because they're jumping from job to job to job, and they're costing. Yeah, I think last year, 2 years ago, I was paying like $750, a fixture for rough-in plumbing, and now it's probably $1,200.
Wow. So let's go over some of that cost if we can. Just some basic big ticket stuff. So we were saying right now that is a lot. I remember, is that I managed when I was getting started, I had managed my own flips, right? Did my own thing. Long past that, long ago. But I remember, I think I was paying $650 a fixture for plumbing rough-ins back then.
Right.
And now it's up to, you just said $1,200, and you even are an experienced guy. So that's plumbing rough-ins. We're talking about roughing in like a bathroom sink or a kitchen sink or
or shower, whatever it is.
Washer, dryer.
Changing out the drains, putting in water lines, changing out the valve.
Right.
And all that stuff. So,
and how about electrical panels? How much is an electrical panel run?
It depends. It depends on, if you're upgrading from a 100 to a 200. But you're looking at $1,500, maybe 2,000 if it's a little more complicated.
And how about rewiring a whole house? And let's just assume like a 2,000 square foot house or something. You know what I mean? 2,000
square foot house with the drywall down, so they don't have to fish, right? So full remodel. You're looking at 12.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
so what if? I mean, would you ever do that situation with drywall up? Would you ever fish? Or if you're going to do a full rewire, you're just going to take the drywall out because it's more cost effective to do that and put the drywall back than have them fish?
Yeah. Well, so it depends on the project, but if it's, if you see knob and tube, you're like, we got to get that out. Right. And then you take a wall down and then you see some Romex, which is the, current wiring standard. You're like, okay, well now let's figure out where everything is. Right. And let's figure out what the, when you're walking through a house, you could sit there for hours and test everything and do all that stuff, but you don't have that time. So once you're in there, you can kind of figure out, like, you can sort of, guess for the worst and tell the sellers, like, hey, this is something that we have to, that we're going to have to, deal with, and whether or not you do it, you want to make sure that you plan for the worst. So, if, once you get in there, you kind of, you test the knob and tube, and hopefully it's not hot, and you can see it's not too much of a mess. So we got that one near you, Julie, on the 18th.
Yeah.
That I thought I was going to have to rewire the whole house, and we're looking around and we're not, right. So which is good because that's going to save me some money. But we also are adding on the dormer to make a master suite upstairs, and so there's going to have to be a bunch of, we're going to have to put a new panel in anyways, but we don't have to rewire the whole house because
how much is like can light per spot?
So we do with wiring and install trim and everything. It's for us, we plan on about $100 a can. For our clients, it's 125.
Okay. What about roof replacement? We're talking like a 2,000 square foot house. Let's say you're doing a full tear off versus an overlay.
Yeah, probably. I think the last one for about 2,000 was about $11,000
for a tear off.
Yeah.
And that means that you're laying new sheathing or plywood and all that?
No, not new plywood, just new. We may have to replace some plywood sheets, but not all the plywood. I haven't done that in a while.
Okay.
In fact, the last time I did that, so funny construction story was City of Seattle. We were going to reframe we had an engineer draw up the drawings to reframe with some scissor trusses from the inside of the house so we could vault the ceiling in this little house. And when I brought it in, they said I couldn't do that it had to go to engineering. And they said, well, I have these are engineered trusses. Like, no, it has to be engineered manufactured trusses. So it was easier and less expensive for me to tear the entire roof off and bring in new trusses, sheet it, and roof it than it was for me to reframe it from the inside and put new roof on.
Yeah. Jeez.
And it saved me about 7 months too from waiting for the City of Seattle so the manufactured trusses was over the counter versus engineered reframing, and we had to be go through the engineering process and wait for all that.
Which is always another conversation, balancing all that, knowing the understanding of how long it takes to get permits. We'll cover that in a second. What about like replumbing a whole house, 2,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, or whatever?
Well, bedrooms don't have to worry about plumbing. So 2 baths, you're looking at
plus kitchen and everything.
Yeah, 8 to 10. Depending on what you're doing in the laundry room. If you're going to put in, a sink, tankless water tank, things like that. You're looking at between 8 and 14. If you got a good guy.
And how about windows? What are you paying for windows?
It varies. Again, if it's I bought a lot of houses that happen to be on busy streets, and so I always get like the airport windows. The sound resistant ones are a little bit more. But with install, I've got about 600 if it's just a normal window.
And how about like an exterior paint job on a 2,000 square foot?
So So for me, painters are expensive, right? For the normal person.
I think people don't realize how I have all my clients that do nice remodels like you do that very much care about the quality, because they're putting their brand on there. Yeah. And they always complain to me because I bitch at them like, why are your rehab costs so high? You're going to blow this deal for, me to get you this deal. What in the heck? And they always talk about the cost of painting. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, and I understand why. And I've seen good painters and bad painters and everybody, we have a client recently who's, they're like, oh, you watched on YouTube and this is how you're supposed to do it. And it's like, all right, go for it. But they are like, we saw the guys here. It was 3 days, 4 guys. Like, this is really expensive for them. I was like, these guys aren't guys I just picked up at Home Depot and brought in here to paint your house. Like, these guys are skilled, like, craftsmen that do an incredible job, and they're thorough and they're safe and they're not going to ruin your stuff. And like, it's not just, that's not what it is.
You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for.
So, but all of our painters, we have a few sets, and then we have our guys that are also general contractors that are painters and drywallers from when they got the beginning. And so, my cost for that, because they know that I know, like, hey, here's what I want it to be, and here's what I need it to be, and they'll say okay. And when we go to a client, I want to make sure they get paid what they're worth. Not that I'm not paying them what they're worth, but I'm, I know that, I know that it can be less, right? So, but they, especially if they have to do trim, you're looking at $15,000-$16,000,
on the inside or the outside or both?
Oh, inside.
Inside.
Yeah.
2,000 square foot house, painting all doors, all trim.
All doors, trim, primer, caulking, and that's prep too. So they're sanding and they're filling in all the gaps, all the millwork. And it's spot, it's, I mean,
and how about outside?
Depending on, how many floors it is, if they have to get on ladders and stuff, it's a little more expensive, but, 6,000, 8,000 for a,
yeah.
So
when you're building your rehab budgets for yourself and your own projects, how do you do it? Are you breaking it down by trade, or are you breaking it down by like room? I've heard some guys like, well, the what we're paying for the living room area is this, what we're paying for the, kitchen is this is the budget, either do it or don't. Or I've had also people just break it down by trades and super detailed line items. How do you do it?
Yeah, so we, when it starts, I have it by not by room originally, but I do, when I go in there, I do it by, just scope of work. Like here's plumbing, and then here's electrical, and
right.
What needs to be done there. Paint based on square footage, flooring based on square footage. Are we refinishing? Are we adding new? Are we tearing up? Are we, as a tile? And I do a lot of guesstimation at the beginning, and then we kind of dial it in. And I always put a 10, 15% contingency on there just to make sure, because we always use it, right?
And how often do you blow your own rehab budget these days? Like half the time, or it's kind of common. It's sometimes it's hard.
I'd say the majority of the time. But it's more just because I have that contingency, right? Because I know that that a lot of that like we did the house, talking about assuming you need to do electrical, the house in North Tacoma and Proctor, that I didn't look hard enough, and I didn't realize that they had knob and tube, and ended up having to rewire the entire house. I knew there's a detached garage that needed new siding, but I didn't look close enough and realize that you couldn't just reside it; you had to reframe the whole thing.
Right. So for those of you guys that are listening, when you are buying deals off wholesalers, or we tell you not to do it, but I know you're doing it anyways. You're listening and you're looking at the numbers that are provided to you, especially if it's a big outfit that does this for other people and they provide a service such as this, and you're looking at their rehab number and you're like, well, they should know what they're doing, so they're giving me these numbers, and you feel like you're relying on it. You guys all need to be assessing the deal as if, what if it went over by, like we said, 15% or 20%, right? Are you still going to be okay, right? Are you still going to be okay in that deal? Meaning, at least you break even or something, and you're doing it for the experience maybe. I know a lot of people kind of have that mentality at first a little bit, but just basically Justin, what we're saying here is he's super experienced and he still goes over budget. So you guys all need plan. If somebody's giving you bids and costs and you're relying on that, or you're putting heavy weight on that you also have the eyes on you and the analysis of what happens if I'm 15 or 20% over on that. And you better think that through before you say yes on that deal.
Right.
It's just part of the biz. It's part of the situation. We're getting super long here, so I'm going to speed up a little bit.
Good.
Where do you buy your cabinets, and where do you buy your, I don't know if that's a trade secret or.
No. Yeah, no, it's, there's, and everyone's always asking, you have the, the cabinets that come from China that, everyone buys their stuff from, and, whether it's Pius or, what's the other one? GS or, whatever. But we've been, I've been really lucky, with a company that has a showroom in, South Seattle and in Bellevue, and since Bellevue's near me, but it's called ABS Cabinets. Their prices have gone up a little bit just with the the trade stuff going on. So we've been actually using our granite guy over their granite quartz.
Where are you buying your appliances?
Depends on who's having the sale. I stopped buying from Lowe's because they screw up the delivery. I think like 90% of the time. And then when you're dealing with, schedules and, the appliances is one of the last things to go, you can't have that. Right. So,
do you ever buy refurbished appliances from Snohomish County
for rentals?
Recycling?
For rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know there were flippers for a while using those and putting those in flipped homes, but
the majority of the stuff that we buy, I just do it online, right? So if I'm going to buy a refurbished one, I have to go drive up there, I have to pick it out and all that kind of stuff. When, Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy, whatever, these guys, they have sales every month for whatever holiday it is, right? They have a Christmas sale going on, and the next month they're going to have a Martin Luther King Day sale, and then they're going to have a President's Day weekend sale, and then they're going to have St. Patrick's Day, and then they're having Easter sale. Then they're so
you don't need to like stock up on a sale because they're going to have another sale
every month. Yeah, so hey, this rehab is going to be finished up around this time. So they're going to have the sales, and they bundle, and you get $3,000 refrigerators for $1,200, or whatever it is, and you can get them. You can match and bundle, and and they do a lot of stuff, and then they you just buy it online, and the earlier you do it, the better, because their delivery schedule gets full. But
how about like windows and doors? Where do you buy that?
Depending on the project, we've got a window and door guy that I played football with in college, and so I support. He's a small business, Chris at U Factor. He's great, and he, I buy most of my windows and doors from him.
And they install.
He's got installers, yes.
And you buy your doors from him too.
Yep.
And how about flooring? Where do you buy your flooring?
So because my wife's a designer, we get them. We do most of our floor shopping at CFM, which is Contract Furnishing Marks. We started looking recently at floors and decor in Tukwila. If we're buying raw red oak, I've been because they always have it in stock, and it seems to be pretty affordable, and there's stores everywhere. Lumber Liquidators. They have commercial accounts now, so you can get discounts on that if you're a contractor. They didn't have that before, like a couple of years ago.
Are there certain things that you do on every house for the sizzle feature, in old school fortune builders term?
Yeah.
Do you always build a big badass walk-in shower, or are you now moved on to like the standalone tub that I see everybody putting in these days, or big? It used to be back in the day they'd say big shower heads, and what's the sizzle feature? I know you guys are so talented in that department that part of your sizzle is just your unique design, your beautiful design. But any tips that you think?
There's always stuff that every room we want to have people walk in and say something cool, like, whoa, this is awesome, right? Obviously, if you have a little guest room or kids room and it's not staged or whatever, it's like, yeah, okay, it's a room. But we want them to walk into every bathroom and go, that's super cool. I love that, right? I want them to say something that's unique. It's not, like I know a lot of flippers stuff, they have terms like, oh, it looks like a flip house. Well, because they're all using the same stuff over and over and over again. We want someone to come in there and have that feeling of this looks like a remodel, not a flip, right? So it makes them feel a little less like, it was done fast and cheap or whatever. There's always, different, thoughts and preconceived, ideas about, people flipping houses, and true. I mean, I've walked into flips going, I would never let my client buy this house. There's absolutely no way ever. Right. It's going to fall apart, or they're going to have to redo a bunch of this stuff. And, and that's unfortunate, that there's, but
is there, let me ask you back on the contractor thing, and then we're going to wrap up. Is there anything when people who are listening, I guess getting started, or whether they're whatever experience level, we're all just sharing stories here. It doesn't matter what your experience level is. Is there anything when you're going to hire subs, like in regards to their skill set or experience, like you're talking about your tile guy with the good eye, right? That, when you are going to hire them, is it more these days about, oh shit, John's available, so I'm going to hire him because I can't find anybody? Or are you hiring them, because they have a certain skill set within plumbing or within electrical? Is there anything anybody needs to watch out for? Like, don't hire a guy that doesn't need to know how to do this, even though he says he's an electrician, or,
Right.
I'm not saying like stupid shit that we should all know common sense wise, but is there anything that you make sure they have some sort of past experience or skill set before you hire them? Or you're just like, dude, if you're available, you're hired?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been, we've been on both sides of that, right? Where we've hired a guy that, or guys for different things that have just completely screwed things up. And I've had bring guys in to fix it. Right. So, you get what you pay for. If you got a plumber that's going to still do it for $600 a thing, a fixture, you're going to have leaks. It's not going to pass inspection. You're going to have guys complaining and fixing about it, and they're going to be late, and they're not going to finish on time. And there's a reason they're available. There's a reason that they are looking for work, is because the people that have hired them are not referring them more work, or they're not reusing them. And they, I get calls all the time. Hey, do you got any more work for me, Justin? I'm like, no, dude. I've had to call you to redo that water heater 3 times. Right? It should be done the first time. There's just not, even when it comes like maintenance stuff.
But when you're getting started, or you're looking to hire new subs, and you don't have that past experience in particular with that, is there anything, other questions, like certain,
I would not recommend trying to be a general contractor if you've never been a general contractor, especially unless you're going to do it on like one of your own houses that you like, you know what I mean, that you own, because there's a lot of money at risk. And, we're talking, I know you guys had the podcast with Tony, I think it was Tony recently, that, his first flip, how, the guys didn't know what he's doing, and then the other guy didn't know what he's doing. And there's a lot of money involved, and you put a lot of trust in people that you don't know, versus them coming into your house where you can watch them, you're kind of seeing and you understand. So that's a
good tip.
As much as people want to and think they can do this and all that stuff, it's really difficult to manage subs, let alone it's actually illegal. If you manage more than one sub, that's not your personal residence, you have to be a general contractor, and you can get fined for it.
Well, that's kind of a good tip. Like, talk to your neighbors, talk to the people in your sphere. Like, who are the subs that are coming to work at your house? Not everybody has a house that's getting into this business to come and have some work done to test out, as a screening process. That's a really huge tip. Boy, that's a good one. You guys should be talking to your friends and your neighbors and your parents and your family, and say, please, whenever you have work done at your house, make a point of letting me know if somebody did a great job for you.
Yeah. And don't ask them if they're investor friendly.
Yeah.
Because you have a target on your back. They're now going to look at you differently than, hey, I've got a remodel that I'm doing. I'm looking for really good quality work. I heard you're good. Can you come and look at it? Right.
That's because everybody knows that investors are
cheap
asses.
Yeah. But there's ways to do it. There's certain things you can be cheap on, and there's certain things that you don't want to be cheap on. Right. And a lot of it is the labor with your plumber, your subs, right.
Right.
And your finish guys, just because that's what, you have to get permits these day and age. I know people are still trying to squirt that, but, if you don't, it's going to come back and bite you.
You know what? From a broker's perspective on the permit question, guys, I'll tell you, like I said, we were talking about how flipped houses are getting more scrutinized. Every broker in town knows to ask, and they will ask every buyer's agent, give us the permits, show us the permits, So, you need to expect that, whether they do or they don't, that most of them these days know that they can. And, it's not a time in this market to be cutting corners when we've lost the predictability and stability anyways. But we're getting long today. That was awesome.
Yeah, and speaking on that
guys,
real quick,
like I said, Justin is available. If you want to come meet him in person, he's hanging out every Thursday in Redmond from 10 to 12. We're going to cover that in a second. My final question.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
The one thing about permits too, which is super valuable, is finding a good architect. And not necessarily a good architect who comes up with great designs, but an architect that knows the permit system inside and out. And so when they're designing something, they'll know exactly how to make it so you can get an over-the-counter permit versus having to look and wait for engineering for 6 or 7 months. That's super valuable and well worth any money you pay for something like that.
And what are the things that you can get over the permit versus you got to wait? Like if you're adding structural changes and trusses, you might have to wait or you might not. But plumbing, electrical, all that, can you get over counter? Or what about when you're opening up the wall in a kitchen and all that?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't span over 14 feet, it can be over the counter. You still need to have the numbers for the engineering for like what the engineered beam is and stuff like that for them. But if it's, as long as it's under 14 feet, you can just get a permit over the counter for that. Like I mentioned earlier, that's the reason why I couldn't do the trusses on the house and frame it, because the span was too big. But if I bought the manufactured off-site ones, I got an over the permit for that.
Right.
So there's little things like that engineers will understand, and the good ones, and they'll save you time and money on that.
How long does it take to get an electrical or plumbing permit?
They get over the counter.
What does that mean? You can get it same day?
So you, they just go in there, or they go in online. Different depends on the municipality. They'll, the electrical's done through L&I. So,
what's the biggest pain in the ass to get a permit for? I mean, aside from new construction,
Yeah. I don't know. Just if anything, anything that's not an over the counter permit. So if your span is over, if you have, so and a lot of times you can say, hey, we've got some work we're doing that is considered over the counter and some work that's not. So you'll actually apply for 2 different permits. Right. So you can get give it forward. Like we built this huge deck off the back and had to do some different things that required a permit with some engineering. And that was going to take some time. So we submitted that permit separately than from the rest of the work. So by the time we were done and ready, we got the permit for the deck and everything else we were ready to go with. And so the project wasn't waiting for the entire permit. It was only waiting for that one separate permit. So, and
what is, when they come inspect, your plumbing or your electrical, what are they the hardest nut about? Like what's harder to get past, or what do you seem to like when you don't pass an inspection? Is it usually with the electrician or the plumber or the whoever?
Yeah, it's usually they're pretty, as long as you don't try and cover up something, they're pretty smart. Some of them can be real dicks, but it's, if we had scheduled some insulation and they put the insulation up, and, a lot of inspectors say, nope, you got to tear it all out. Right. And then some inspectors are cool, say, well, just open it up a little bit. So I just need to be able to see the wires. Right.
So we just kind of pull luck of the draw. And, but it's also communication of like, hey, my guys were going to do the installation over the weekend. My electrician said the inspection was happening on Friday and it didn't happen until Monday. Right. But we didn't know. So we couldn't, we weren't able to call the guys off to do that. So, and so that happens. Right. But, right. You just get, always just plan a day or two, extra for the inspection and just make sure, and communication's key with your, sometimes, guys, if it's a Friday, they want to take off a little early because, they need something and they don't want to go to Home Depot. They want to go, pick it up on Last
Monday,
question.
So. Yes.
Before we wrap it down, tell us about Justin Stiles Fine Art.
There was 1 year in my life that I was a working artist, that I paid my bills as an artist. Man, your stuff is good. I was looking it over and I was like, I want that. I want to have a Justin Stiles piece in my house. Oh, well, we need to talk about that. Yeah, I don't know if you have any laying around. I can buy one off you, but seriously, you guys can go on Facebook and see what I'm talking about. It's Justin Stiles Fine Art on Facebook. And you will, again, see how talented our buddy Justin is here. Multi-talented guy. Pre-kids, yes, when I had time in my hands. But thank you.
Super good stuff, though, man. I'm telling you.
Hey, well, I appreciate it.
Now everybody's going to look. I just made you famous again.
Yeah. I haven't updated that.
There you go.
2 years. But thank you.
All right, guys. Well, we've gone long today, but for a good reason. We love Justin, and he's got some great info to share with us.
It feels like it's only been 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Story of my life, man. And everything seems like it's 15 minutes, but it's actually 15 hours. Yeah. So we want to wrap it up today and remind you guys about all the awesome weekly mastermind and coaching sessions and hangout sessions and yummy food sessions that we have every week. Justin, of course, is part of that. You can come and see us in Burien every Tuesday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. at Angelo's at 601 Southwest 153rd Street in Burien. It's an Italian restaurant. We have a private room, good food, good conversation. It's super awesome. This is face-to-face conversation. No presentations, just a mastermind, whatever anybody wants to talk about. Our MO is to see if anybody has a problem or needs help with anything. That's the first thing we talk about. And then beyond that, we just strike up a conversation, and it is different every week. It doesn't matter what experience level you're at. Everybody's welcome. Everybody contributes to the conversation. It's absolutely one of the best changes that I've made in my life. As far as my, it's fantastic for relationships, and you will be surprised at how powerful the format is if you haven't experienced yet. So Burien, 12 to 2, every Tuesday. Also for you East Siders, we meet at the Family Pancake House off Redmond Way every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Instead of beef cannelloni, we're having omelets and what do we call it? Eggs Benedict and whatever else you want there. And that is the one that Justin hangs out with at us. And he's actually the host along with Melanie Mengi there for that one. Come join us. Great stuff. We have one up in Burlington on I want to say it's the second Tuesday of every month. Check meetup.com or send me an email at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com, or we will be posting it on our Facebook page. If you're not on our email list, jump on our Facebook group for Seattle Investors Club where we post all this stuff. But that one up in Skagit County is at Bob's Burgers and Brews. We kicked it off about a month ago, still growing. Come join the conversation up there, hosted by my buddy Julia Phillip. And we are kicking off in January 2020. We have finally found a location in Milton. All the details will be coming out soon down in Pierce County that Larry and Mariska of Larry and Mariska fame will be hosting that Seattle Investors Club meetup. All the same format, open discussion, just there to help each other, period. It is if you owe it to yourself at least one time to come because it's free. You don't have to RSVP. You can just show up. And it is absolutely awesome. And then we have one hosted by our buddy Dave Billings in Skagit County. And that is the first Monday of every month. So that just happened. Again, look on meetups or engage with us on our Facebook page to get more information, or email me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Other than that, Joe is going to wrap it up and give us the details of where we can find all the good show notes of today's podcast.
Yeah, guys, so many good show notes and links in this one, including the Justin Stiles fine art link. That will be in there. You can find those notes and links at seattleinvestorsclub.com/96. That's seattleinvestorsclub.com/96. And guys, we really appreciate it when you give us reviews for the podcast, and we will read those reviews on the podcast if you give them to us. So please do that at your favorite podcasting hosting, and make sure you hit subscribe.
Awesome stuff. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year. And we will keep bringing you the good info every week. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.